Welcome to part 3 in the Developing the Curriculum podcast. We are still in chapter 6 of the textbook. The lesson objectives are to discuss steps 6, 7, and 8 in the ABC curriculum process. So in step 6, you're going to calculate the available instructional time. You need to understand or figure out how much time there is to teach. We have some math to do, but don't let that scare you. It's pretty straightforward. If you have your textbook, go to page 123 in your textbook. We're going to look at figure 6.6 for this. So the first thing we're going to calculate is the total number of minutes. To calculate total number of minutes, we need to know the following items. We need to know the number of weeks per year in your school year, weeks per year, the number of minutes per class period, and the number of classes per week. We're going to use the elementary example in the figure 6.6. So for calculating total minutes, we're going to take the weeks per year, times that by number of minutes per class, times by the number of classes per week. So in our example, we have 36 weeks per year times 30 minutes per class times 2 classes per week. That gives us 12,960 total minutes. Next thing we need to do is we need to subtract out 10% from the total minutes, because research has shown that physical education teachers spend about 10% of their time in managerial tasks, such as taking roll, organization of equipment, and those types of things. So if you're not too sure how to do the minus 10%, you take the total minutes times 0.10, and that gives 10%. So our total minutes is 12,960 minus 1,296. In the book, that does not show that the total number of minutes is 11,664. The next item on our figure is total number of hours. To get the total number of hours, you divide the total number of minutes, which in our example is 11,664, divided by 60, and that gives us 194.4 total hours available. The last item in the figure there is the number of hours per year. And this is going to be number of hours per year for each grade level. So if we see that in elementary there are 6 grades in elementary, we take 194.4 divided by 6, so we take the total number of hours divided by the number of grades, and we get 32.4 hours per grade. So we have 32.4 hours per grade for our instructional time for the elementary school kids. So in your learning activity 6.3, you're going to calculate how much instructional or coaching time you have. I would like you to develop some kind of chart like this one in figure 6.6 and put that in your document when you turn it in. Microsoft Word has an insert table feature that you can use, and label it like something like that, and then that will be your learning activity. Okay. Step number 7 is calculating the average objective mastery times. We need to determine how much time it will take for students to master each of our objectives. Master, again, is critical. They are proficient. They can meet all the requirements that you have in your objectives. If you said that they need to be able to make 7 out of 10 free throws on 5 trials, then how long will that take them to do that as a class? Obviously, there's some factors that will influence how long it will take students to master these objectives. So they're going to be dependent on the number of students you have in your class. You have a very large class or classes, it's probably going to take more time for students to master that objective. It's going to depend on your facilities and equipment. If you don't have enough equipment for all your students, it's going to take more time for students to be able to practice and learn the material. It's also dependent on the abilities of the students. If you have a more athletically gifted class, it may take less time. If you have less athletically gifted class, it's going to take more time. It's also going to be dependent on the experience of the teacher. If you have a program where you have many experienced physical education teachers, probably will help because their abilities to learn the material and teach the material will be better. If you have more less experienced teacher or novice teacher or brand new teacher, it's going to take them a little while to learn how to be a better teacher. And there's multiple other factors involved in here. How many rainy days and all just those different little factors that pop up during the school year. So in step 7, in learning activity 6.4, you're going to use your objective list generated in activity 6.2 for one of your content areas. You can pick any one of those content areas. You're going to estimate how long it will take to teach mastery of each of the objectives to a typical class of students. I asked you for each content area to write 3 objectives. You may even have more in those if you're really doing just curriculum at your school, but for our purposes, for our class, you're just going to take one content area. For the 3, we're going to estimate how to do that. So you're going to need to estimate how long it will take for students to master material. Alright, let's learn how to do this. If you turn to page 124 in your textbook, we're looking at figure 6.8. So the first thing you're going to do is select one learning objective from each of the content areas. So I'm looking at on the chart on page 124 in figure 6.8. I'm on the top chart where it says category simple objective. So in a category, you're going to list your 3 content areas. Then in this sample objectives, you'll just list one objective from each of your content areas. Just select one, doesn't matter which one it is. Then estimate how long it will take to teach and each student to master each one of those learning objectives. Now use minutes, and then the book suggests that you round up to 10, make them 10-minute intervals. So don't do 55 minutes, do 60 minutes. So write out how long they think it will take to master that particular objective. So again, categories, your 3 content areas, then you just select one of your learning objectives that you're going to determine how long you think it will take. So you have 4 different numbers for each one of those objectives. So you're going to put those time estimates in the table. Step number 4 is then you're going to take the average score. This on our top table here is average, so we'll look at the very top one. Develop abdominal strength. Teacher 1 said 520 minutes. Teacher 2 said 600 minutes. Teacher 3 said 240 minutes. Teacher 4 said 360 minutes. Teacher 5 said 495 minutes. They took the average. Remember way back when in arithmetic, averages add up the sum or the total of all those 5 scores divided by 5. So that's what you do, is you get your average. Then we're going to move down to the bottom part of that figure where one says category again. Estimate average from step 2, A, B, and C there. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move those averages from the top table to the A column in the bottom table. As you can see, the average for 443 for the fitness is average there for 443 in the bottom table for column A. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is get a weighted average. To do a weighted average, we need some more information. If you look at column B, it says number of objectives in this category. So in the fitness category, how many total objectives do you have in there? For our assignment, each one of these categories are going to be the same, which is 3, because I only had you do 3 objectives. But in a real curriculum process, you would have more than just 3. For in our example, so they had, for the fitness category, they have 10 objectives. So what we want to do is get the weighted average. What we're going to do is take column A times column B, so 443 times 10 gives us our weighted average of 4,443. Okay, so we're going to do that for each of the 3 content areas when you get your different averages. Then the next step you're going to do is you're going to add up the things in column C, the weighted average, and get a sum. That's what adding things up is called, sum. So you're going to get the sum of all those. So you see in our column here in the figure 6.8, if we add up the 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, we have 42,744 is our weighted average sum. Okay. Then we also want to add up or sum all the different objectives. They have 114 total objectives. So we finally get to this, and then we can actually calculate our average objective mastery times. What we need to do is divide this sum weight average to 42,744 divided by our total number of objectives, which is 114, and we get 375 minutes or 6.25 hours. That means we have 6.25 hours per objective to meet all of our objectives. So you're going to do that in your activity. Alright, so that's step 7. So we've done step 6. Now we're going to move on to step 7. Now we want to calculate how much content to include. So what should you include? You have all these things, but do you have the time to do it? And how long should it take? So we're going to use the information from steps 4 through 7, or activity 6.1 through 6.4 to do this. So if you go to figure 6.9 on page 126, we'll work through this together again. So our first step is take the total time available for instruction, which is step 6. And we just did at the beginning of this lecture. Then we want to divide it by the average length of time to master objective, which is step 7. So you can take step 7 divided by, or step 6 divided by step 7. And this gives you the estimated number of objectives that can be covered. The second step of step 8, there's a lot of steps. how many objectives to teach in each program goal. To do this, we take the percentage goal emphasis for each goal, which is step 5. In our thing, it's going to be 3, times the number of objectives in the program, which is step above. Then in step 3, we want to select our top ranked objectives for each goal. And step 4 asks you to rank order your 3 goals, 1, 2, and 3, as what is more important. Again, if we're doing this at your work site, you'd have more than just 3 objectives. So the purpose of our research, or excuse me, our curriculum development project is to give you an idea of how this should work, and then you can do this at your workplace in more in depth. So so that's step 8. Now the things you got to make a decision about when you're developing this step is, do you want more depth or do you want more breadth in your program? Depth means you have fewer goals and more objectives per goal. It means you spend more time on fewer areas. So you go deeper in a particular subject for that. Whereas breadth means you have large number of goals and less objectives per goal. This provides more information, but you spend less time on particular areas. So the purpose of steps 2 and 4 is for the curriculum team to identify the importance of a particular program goal and objectives. And so again, you have to answer the question, what do you want students to know when they are done? So the learning activities for the 6.3 and 6.5 learning activities are designed to assist you in completing steps 6 through 8. I would suggest that you use the worksheets in the textbook. And again, I have included those in the course documents. And if you're not clear on something, please post it in the Q&A discussion board, because I assume other students will have the same issues. And so we can get that information out to other people. Always go to the Q&A discussion board first. See if anybody's asked a question about anything like your question. And if not, post it there. If you want, also send a follow-up email. Say, hey, I just posted a question in the Q&A discussion board, so I can get back to you as soon as I can. That's it for steps 6, 7, and 8 in the ABC curriculum model. And I hope this helped you understand these steps.